and welcome to lyra.com, the place where you can find all the tools and advice necessary to remain and become again healthy holistically without any side effects, all natural. And we are very well known, of course, for all the tools and the devices and supplements that you can get at the www.lyra.com for remaining healthy. But what is a little bit less known is that we post daily on our blog advice articles about all kind of new discoveries in this field. And today we're going to talk about one very interesting article that we wrote not too long ago, and we're gonna make more of those informational videos like this one in the future, so stay tuned here on our YouTube channel and follow us also, of course, on social media for all the updates necessary. As I said, we post daily all kind of interesting information. We are the cutting edge, and today we're gonna talk about taurine, which is, we call it a wonder molecule, and you will see why. So without further ado, let's learn more about it. So what do we know about taurine? Taurine is first of all the most common free amino acid in your body, and it is also an essential amino acid containing sulfur-like methionine, cysteine and homocysteine. It's never incorporated into proteins. It's found in high concentrations in your heart, your brain and your liver, and adults can synthesize taurine, which is very important in many marine species for the osmosis process. Shallow water clams and snails have significantly more taurine than deeper water species, and brain taurine levels decline unfortunately with age in mammals like us, and it is replaced with glutamate, which is not good at all. And a study released in November 2012 made a bold statement that taurine is one of the most essential substances in the body. And the authors in this article wrote that considering its broad distribution, its many cytoprotective attributes, and its functional significance in cell development, nutrition, and survival, taurine is undoubtedly one of the most essential substances in the body. What are the benefits of taurine? Well, it might be already known to you that the Japanese have a life expectancy that is among the highest in the world, and in fact, Okinawa, Japan's famous island of longevity, as it's also called, likely has the world's highest percentage of people over 100 years old. Undoubtedly, there are also many factors that play into the lifespans of the longest living populations, but the evidence shows clearly that they all have one thing in common: high dietary intake of amino acids, and especially of the amino acid called taurine, which is available, for example, from raw fish. Taurine promotes cardiovascular health, insulin sensitivity, electrolyte balance. It enhances your hearing functions and immune modulation, and it also protects you against heart failure and reduces the mortality by nearly 80%, as science has found out. Its benefits are so broad and so extensive that scientists have described taurine as a wonder molecule. And taurine is found abundantly in healthy bodies. However, certain diets, particularly the vegetarian or vegan diets, lack, unfortunately, the adequate amounts of taurine. Disease states, including the liver, kidney, or heart failure, or diabetes and cancer, can all cause a deficiency in taurine. And aging bodies often cannot internally produce an optimal amount of taurine, making supplementation with taurine vital. That's why those interested in longevity should consider this vital and super low-cost nutrient. In this article, we'll also learn how boosting taurine levels can contribute to better cardiovascular, metabolic, and neurologic health. And here you see a very nice graphic depicting what taurine can do for you. The general actions are osmolyte regulator, ion channel regulator, intracellular calcium regulator. It's an antioxidant also, an anti-inflammatory agent. It's anti-proliferative and anti-endoplasmic reticulum stress reducers. And here you see the main target tissues. The CNS, where it has inhibitory actions, your heart, the vascular system, where it reduces, for example, blood pressure, and plaque creation, your immune system. It's an immunostimulant. It's good for your liver. It's good for your skeletal and muscular system, so increases performance, etc. It's also very, very well received by a genitourinary system. So it's a fertility stimulant and also extremely beneficial for your pancreas as it increases insulin production. So many beneficial effects of this one critical amino acid, as you can see. How can you naturally increase your intake of taurine? Well, the two main foods where you can find taurine in is meat and seafood, but also milk and derivatives and feedstuffs. And here, please pause the presentation to go through all the different foods that have a very high amount of taurine in them and are therefore beneficial for you. And here you can see how taurine is processed in your body, the synthesis of taurine, and it's essential to protein folding, but also to cellular repairs through cholesterol sulfate. It's an essential antioxidant and an essential amino acid as well. So taurine, SLS, and the skin. There's also a very interesting subject and where taurine can help you. Sodium lauryl sulfate, also shortly called SLS, is added to shampoos mainly to make them foamy, and it is a strong skin irritant. Taurine accumulates in the outermost keratinocyte layer of the skin following UV exposure and stimulates the synthesis of ceramides, cholesterol, and fatty acids. SLS induces an increase in water loss through the skin, as well as inflammation and proliferation. And SLS, together with taurine, leads to a decrease in IL-1 alpha and prostaglandin E2, which are inflammatory agents, a stabilization of the membrane integrity in your skin, and an improvement in keratinocyte viability. Taurine is also extremely good against mitochondrial diseases. So the mitochondria convert the food into ATP for energy, and the mitochondrial stage impairment is associated with many neurological and muscular disorders. Mitochondrial diseases are often caused by mutations in your mitochondrial genes, and symptoms, for example, include poor growth, loss of muscle coordination, muscle weakness, visual problems, hearing problems, learning disabilities, heart diseases, liver diseases, kidneys, gastrointestinal disorders, respiratory disorders, neurological problems, autonomic dysfunctions, and dementia. So a lot of good that you can do with a good intake of taurine against all of these diseases. And it's of course very beneficial for our cardiovascular system, and sudden cardiac death is the leading cause of death in industrially developed countries, accounts for 300,000 to 500,000 deaths per year in the US alone, and it's due to ventricular fibrillation, which is a life-threatening heart arrhythmia. It's manifested by low heart rate variability. It's triggered by adrenaline response to stress, followed by intracellular potassium and calcium dysregulation. And taurine is normally found in the highest concentration in your heart. That's why it's so crucial for the health of your heart. And antiarrhythmic effects were also observed experimentally in cats, dogs, and guinea pigs. So it's beneficial for your pets as well. Taurine supplementation prevents, therefore, a loss of potassium by the myocardium and reverses the adverse effects of adrenaline and digoxin. But that's not the only thing that taurine can do for you to remain healthy. It also reduces the apoptosis and atherosclerosis. So high dietary fish is associated with decreased cardiovascular death rates, and taurine is especially highly concentrated in fish. That's why it's important to have a high fish intake in your diet. High dietary taurine reduces the risk of coronary heart disease and insulin resistance. Taurine deficiency can also lead to obesity, by the way, and a risk factor for heart disease is obesity. Rabbits were fed here, for example, in an experiment, high cholesterol diet, and examined the effect of taurine supplements on the left main coronary artery, where reduced serum homocysteine levels, endoplasmic reticulum stress was also reduced in endothelial cells, which protected them from apoptosis, also reduced atherosclerosis in the artery walls was observed, and reduced serum HDL levels were also observed. So all very beneficial for your cardiovascular system and to reduce the risk of apoptosis and atherosclerosis. So let's look a little bit further into the effects of taurine, the beneficial effects against insulin resistance. So there was an experiment where mother rats were fed a low protein, high carb diet during the gestation and lactation period, and the result was that the offspring had vulnerable islets in the pancreas, which leads to diabetes. And there was an excess production of toxic nitric oxide, as well as increased apoptosis, which is cell death. And a supplementation with taurine in the protein deficient mothers alleviated all of these effects. Fructose also induces diabetes, and rats were fed cornstarch compared with rats that were fed fructose. And fructose induced insulin resistance, which is a very well-known response to that, led to the result that supplementation with only 2% taurine solution ad libitum protected the rats from this insulin resistance. So it's good against diabetes as well, provenly so. And here you can see the graphs from this experiment about taurine, fructose, and diabetes, and how it all correlates. And the result was, as you can see in the graphs, that the taurine supplementation completely eliminated the sugar spike caused by the fructose. But there is more actually. Taurine has been proven to also help with encephalitis. So encephalitis is an acute inflammation of the brain, which is usually caused by an infection, most often by a virus, but sometimes also by bacteria or fungi or parasites. And the symptoms are, for example, headaches, fever, confusion, sleepiness, fatigue, seizures and convulsions, tremors, as well as memory problems. And taurine is kept in reserve as a buffer for the sulfate supply. And encephalitis enables the conversion of taurine to sulfate. This is an important positive outcome of encephalitis, and encephalitis may be a mechanism to renew the sulfate supply to the brain, therefore, by breaking down taurine. It's a complex mechanism that involves glutamate, hypochlorite, nitric oxide, ammonia, etc. And fever and seizures also provide the catalysis. The bacteria may also be permitted into the brain to help carry out the reaction. But taurine can do much more for you. It also has been proven in another study to be very beneficial against breast cancer. So progressive inhibition of apoptosis, which is cell death again, and induction of angiogenesis, which is blood vessel growth, contribute to tumor initiation, growth, and metastasis in the pathogenesis of breast cancer. And taurine here in this experiment displayed an anti-neoplastic effect through the downregulation of the angiogenesis and an enhancement of the tumor cell apoptosis, as you can see also in the graph on the right, where there was a 69-fold increase in breast cancer in patients that had a very low or no taurine intake at all. The experiment was conducted with 85 women, 50 were diagnosed with breast cancer, 10 with benign tumors and 5 with a family history, and there were 20 as a control group. Serum taurine sharply reduced in women with breast cancer, and there was 100% detection and 0 false alarms in this study. But it's not only breast cancer that has been connected with lower taurine intake. Taurine induces in general a cancer cell apoptosis, or cancer cell death, as has been found out, and many types of cancers. So breast cancer we talked already about, ovarian cancer also, bladder cancer, lung cancer, uterine cancer, liver cancer, colon, gastrointestinal, as well as endometrial cancer. And the assumptions here by science nowadays is that tumor cells typically overproduce sulfated polysaccharides, and cancer depletes the taurine by converting it to sulfate, and therefore you can support your cancer treatment with a good taurine supplementation. So as you can see, taurine is a truly fascinating molecule. It does a lot of good for your health and has zero side effects. And let's recap a little bit again what it can do for you. It prevents obesity. It promotes glucose control and treats therefore diabetes. It reverses cardiovascular disease factors, so it regulates also the heart rhythm, the cardiac contraction, your blood pressure, and your platelet aggregation. It helps exercising muscle rid itself of the lactic acid. It provides potent retina protection, so good for your eyes as well. Helps reverse tinnitus also. It's a solution for seizures. It prevents and treats liver disease. It groups with the longest lifespans in the world. So the populations that consume high amounts of taurine become much older than those in the rest of the world. Taurine supplementation can also mitigate the damaging effects of fat, glucose, and excess insulin, as we have seen. It strengthens and protects your heart muscle cells and the system of blood vessels that supplies blood throughout your body, helping to protect against atherosclerosis, heart attacks, and strokes. It also protects your vision and hearing. It's vital for the proper function of the minerals potassium, calcium, magnesium, and sodium. So if you take these supplements, you should also take taurine to make them work. It is vital for the proper function for bile acids and maintains cell membrane stability. It reduces the synthesis of lipids and cholesterol that are associated with atherosclerosis. And we need to worry about dietary deficiencies, especially in vegetarian diets, because as you have seen, there is no taurine available from a vegetarian or vegan diet. Unfortunately, you have to have a natural intake through fish or meats. That's why we are not the big proponents of a purely vegan or vegetarian diet here at Lyra.com, because science so far speaks against a purely vegetarian diet. And one of the reasons is the low taurine intake. So I hope that you found all of this information very, very informative and important. Please share, like, and subscribe. Follow us on social media. Visit our blog. As I said, we post articles and valuable information about how to remain holistically healthy every day. So subscribe to our channel and everything else to stay up to date. And until next time, stay healthy.